In a fascinating development, there's talk that Lue Elizondo may take on a UAP role in the upcoming administration. On December 27th, the Hannibal TV YouTube channel featured Representative Tim Burchett of Tennessee. During the interview, the host asked Burchett, and I quote, "Could you see President Trump putting a guy like Elizondo in a position where he would be dealing with the UAP type of events going on in the U.S.? Burchett responded, 100%. I believe Trump will get to the bottom of it, end quote. Later in the interview, Burchett stated,
but Lue would be the man. I would love to see Lue in that position, and I'll recommend that.
I would be very pleased to have Lue Elizondo have a UAP role in Trump's administration. And as it turns out, so would Lue Elizondo. UAP James shared the clip I just showed you and wrote where he shared it the following. President Trump may appoint Lue Elizondo to administration UAP role, Representative Burchett. I would love to see Lue in that position. I will recommend that. Source, the Hannibal TV. Lue Elizondo quoted this tweet and wrote, "Thank you, Representative Tim Burchett, for your vote of confidence. I would be honored to serve my country again in an official capacity. Know this, I would get to the bottom of the drone issue immediately and make sure the new administration, Congress, and the American people receive full transparency on the UAP issue. At Representative Eric Burleson, at Nancy Mace, at Senator Rounds." Underneath this tweet, Julian asked Lue, "You made it clear during the last House UAP hearing that you are bound by NDAs you recently signed that prevent you from openly discussing a number of important topics on this issue. So how would being appointed to a public position within the White House change that?" Lue responded, "Because I can petition to have classified information downgraded to the unclassified level and help bring your voice to the decision makers directly. I have very specific reasons why I think Lue would be excellent for a role like this, and we'll cover that in some depth." In the following clip, DoD spokesperson John Kirby states that these drones have not engaged in any incursions into restricted airspace. And that, of course, is either a lie or it's incompetence. I'll let you be the judge. But this factors into statements that Lue Elizondo has stated in the past, and him becoming potentially an official in the future administration.
And importantly, there are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace.
Now listen closely to what DoD spokesperson John Kirby says with host Brett Baier on Fox News. I believe this was posted on December 16th, as I found it on Twitter, and it was published on Twitter then.
And we've seen nothing in this in and around New Jersey that should give the people on the ground there concerns for their safety for this activity. And we've seen nothing working with the Department of Defense as well that indicates a foreign adversary actor involved or any kind of pernicious national security threat. Now, there have been some drone sightings, I think, as you know, over some military bases. We're obviously looking at that. That is a different category.
Let me recap that for you because this is critical. So on December 12th, Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby stated, and I quote, "And importantly, there are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace," end quote. 4 days later, on Fox News with Brett Baier, he stated that there have been some drone sightings over military bases. That is a different category. What is this, 1984? Double speak? Yes is no, no is yes. Is he lying? Is he incompetent? I'll leave you to decide. But also, I have another problem with what he said 4 days later with Brett Baier. He said that this is a different category. Why would it be a different category? These drones are obviously not spontaneously emerging over these military bases. They have to fly over probably houses and hospitals, schools, infrastructure, cars, Little League baseball, until they get to these restricted airspace air bases. And then when they're done doing whatever they're doing, they're going somewhere else, again, going over people's homes and hospitals and houses. So it's not a different category, because the drones that are infiltrating restricted airspace are only over the restricted airspace for a certain amount of time. And then the other amount of time, they're over people's homes and hospitals and schools and so forth. So this is just lying, spin, gaslighting, in my opinion. And I don't know how else to interpret it. But it honestly gets even worse. Journalist Michael Schellenberger did an article titled "U.S. Government Disinformation on Drones Accompanies Growing Failure to Control Airspace." Here's an excerpt from it, and I quote, "As military journalist and debrief publisher Tim McMillan noted last week, a huge problem with the White House's recent stance that the recent mystery drone craze is effectively mass hysteria is that officials from Picatinny Arsenal had told his debrief colleague Micah Hanks there had been nearly a dozen confirmed sightings of drones operating near the base going back to mid-November. This was before the report of drones over bases in the UK and the viral news of incursions in New Jersey." And end quote. And to be clear, the Picatinny Arsenal is in New Jersey, but it gets even worse. I found this article on, ironically, U.S. Department of Defense, titled "Joint Staff Addresses Drones Over New Jersey Military Installations." This is, days after his press conference on the 12th with John Kirby, but what's being cited here happened before the press conference on December 12th. I'm going to put the copy right in front of you because this is so mind-boggling. And I quote, "We have had confirmed sightings at Picatinny Arsenal and Naval Weapons Station Earl," the spokesperson said. "This is not a new issue for us. We've had to deal with drone incursions over our bases for quite a time now. It's something that we routinely respond to in each and every case when reporting is cited." The spokesperson said military installations have means to detect and respond to such drones, and that security personnel are trained to identify, categorize, and employ those tools to keep drones from flying unauthorized over U.S. military bases. Right now, the FBI, DHS, FAA, and DOD have been unable to determine who is responsible for flying the drones, and there's no indication that there are adversary nations involved. To date, we have no intelligence or observations that would indicate that they were aligned with a foreign actor or that they had malicious intent, the spokesperson said, but we don't know. We have not been able to locate or identify the operators or the points of origin. Okay, so drones are flying over very sensitive, restricted airspace, and the U.S. government and military can't ascertain whose they are, where they're going, and where they came from. And yet John Kirby on December 12th is telling us emphatically, well, there's no indication that there's a threat of any kind. And he also said there was no confirmation that they were traveling over restricted airspace. And yet I've just read you defense.gov that it has been and they said, we have confirmed sightings at Picatinny Arsenal and Naval Weapons Station Earl. I mean, it's gaslighting. You read this and you're like, okay, what's going on here? How can anyone be this incompetent? So the USDefense.gov article that I shared spoke about sightings over Picatinny Arsenal and Naval Weapons Station Earl. By the way, they are both in New Jersey, which annoys me so much because John Kirby said this is a different category. Well, it's not a different category if they have to fly to get to these installations. They're going to fly over civilians to get to these installations. Here is Kirsten Gillibrand, Senator of New York. She talks about, and this, I saw it was published on Twitter on December 18th. She talked about incursions into Langley Air Force Base. It occurred over 17 days. Let's play that mashup of her presentation.
We've had a number of these drone incursions over military bases, over highly confidential, secretive sites, over areas like arsenals, over nuclear sites over the last several years. I don't think we do know whose they are or even what technology they're using. I'm very concerned that the FAA and the DOJ and Homeland Security aren't doing enough to assess whose drones these are and whether they are adversarial in any way. For 2 weeks, Langley had drone incursions, and they was the type of technology that our radar didn't detect them arriving.
So the type of technology that they could not detect them arriving via radar. Well, that's concerning. I'm going to read to you an excerpt from the October 12th, 2024 the Wall Street Journal article titled "Mystery Drone Swarmed a U.S. Military Base for 17 Days. The Pentagon is Stumped." And I quote, and this is the Langley incursion drone event series that Kirsten Gillibrand was citing. And I quote, "Over 17 days, the drones arrived at dusk, flew off, and circled back. Some shone small lights, making them look like a constellation moving in the night sky or a science fiction movie," Kelly said. Close encounters at Langley. They also were nearly impossible to track, vanishing each night despite a wealth of resources deployed to catch them, end quote. So this is not new. This has been going on a long time. It's been going on with several bases. It actually happened in, I think it was 2019. There was a huge drone swarm amongst about 10 different military vessels out in the Pacific West Coast. And, look, to me, it seems like DOD spokesperson John Kirby is gaslighting us. He's trying to downplay it to a point of absurdity, as if he had like some PR person write everything he stated to make it seem as innocuous as possible, which is spin, right? What is spin? Spin is trying to come off as accurate, the best that you can, while giving the impression that is agenda driven, but not actually representative of the situation at hand. But I also feel like he lied too, whether intentionally or not, because he said there was no confirmed sightings over military bases, and that has never been true. And it wasn't even true recently when he did his presentation at the December 12th press conference. Now, this will bring us to Lue Elizondo, who has complained about the way the U.S. government has been handling the drones, and I think rightfully so. Lue Elizondo wrote on Twitter on December 14th, and by the way, this is not the only time he's spoken about this. He has addressed John Kirby personally for his handling of the drone issue, but I just want to highlight this tweet, and I quote, "Sir, real Donald Trump, the fiasco this current administration has gotten us into regarding drones is unacceptable. We have been ringing the alarm bells since 2017. For the sake of the American people, please enable Tulsi Gabbard and the rest of your cabinet to fix this issue once and for all and come clean with the American people. Between Tulsi, Robert Kennedy Jr., and others in your staff, we can do this. I know you share our perspective, and thank you for your courage to address this. Know that you have a small army of former government officials ready to help any way we can. America can handle the truth, and America deserves the truth," end quote. And I just want to make it clear, I do not think Lue Elizondo is being political. I think Lue Elizondo would love, as much as any supporter of Biden, that Biden would disclose and handle the drone situation better. Disclose UAP reality, whatever the drone situation encompasses, and be transparent with the American public. So I think he's looking for a solution. And obviously, the Trump administration is going to come into power soon. So while it's tempting to take this tweet out of context, I would suggest that you don't. In fact, Matt Ford, who is anything but a Republican, Matt Ford of the Good Trouble Show, he has been extremely critical of the Biden administration and how they have handled the drones, and I also think UAP as well. So we need to be careful with how we judge what people say. Like for me, as an example, I don't talk politics. I don't get political. But would I support Trump if he disclosed UAP reality? The answer is yes. Would I support Biden if Biden supported or disclosed UAP reality? Of course I would. Emphatically. This is not about politics. So that Lue Elizondo tweet I just shared with you was posted on December 14th. 2 days later, the incoming president, Donald Trump, said some very bizarre things about the drones. I'm going to share the clip, and then we're going to break it down.
The government knows what is happening. Look, our military knows where they took off from. If it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. They know where it came from and where it went. And for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. Our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it's the enemy, because if it was the enemy, they'd blast it out. Even if they were late, they'd blast it. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people, and they should.
I mean, let's face it. What he said is kind of bizarre. He said, our military knows where they took off from. Okay. If that's true, then why has the narrative been we don't know where they're coming from? We can't track them. They're undetectable to our radar. Then Trump goes on to say, if it's a garage, they can go right into that garage. So he's emphasizing the precision to which we can ascertain where they came from. He goes on to say they know where it came from and where it went, continuing to emphasize that. And then he goes, and for some reason, they don't want to comment. And I think they'd be better off saying what it is. He goes on, our military knows and our president knows. And for some reason, they want to keep people in suspense. I can't imagine it was the enemy. If it was, they'd blast it. Okay. So what does this suggest? It suggests that they know what it is in terms of some details, but it seems like Trump is suggesting that those details do not align with an enemy, because if those details did, they would blast them. Then he goes on to say something strange is going on, and for some reason they don't want to tell the people, and they should. Then later he was asked whether he was briefed on these drones, and he didn't want to answer that question. I would not take what Trump said as definitive. I mean, he wasn't even willing to say whether he was briefed on the drones or not. So if he is underscoring the importance of transparency, but subsequently is not willing to say whether he was briefed or not, those in and of themselves are mixed messages. At least it could be argued. But either way, what I will say is that Trump has an absolute obligation to enact UFO transparency. And the reason I say that is because A, he said he would, and B, his cabinet is extremely pro UFO transparency. At least they claimed that they were. As I understand it, former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe was chosen by Trump to become the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. And John Ratcliffe has stated that some of the UAP that are detected, we can't duplicate their technology. We can't defend against them. They've been picked up on radar. It's not believed to be an adversary. No, he might have said radar, but he also said they've been picked up on satellite. And at one point he said that there's really strange occurrences with these UAP, that they would go beyond the sound barrier and there would be no sonic boom. Frankly, John Ratcliffe, the upcoming director of the Central Intelligence Agency, as I understand it, essentially said these technologies are not human, but without saying it. So with John Ratcliffe being willing to be more clear about UAP and the rest of his cabinet underscoring the importance of transparency, I think we have to hold Trump accountable to stop the shenanigans. So on September 3rd, 2024, Donald Trump was on Lex Fridman's show, and he gave his word that he would release more video footage of UAP. Let's roll it.
A lot of people are very interested in the footage of UFOs. The Pentagon has released a few videos, and there's been anecdotal reports from fighter pilots. So a lot of people want to know, will you help push the Pentagon to release more footage, which a lot of people claim is available?
Oh, yeah, sure, I'll do that. I would do that. I'd love to do that. I have to do that.
So here's why I think Lue Elizondo would be a good candidate to play an official role within the U.S. government under the Trump administration, to bring clarity to the UFO issue, to the people of America, to the people of the world. First of all, he would be operating in the perfect storm. What does this perfect storm encompass? Well, first of all, more progress has been made on the UFO front, in my opinion, in the past 6 to 7 years compared to the past 70 years. That's number one. I mean, we've had a couple hearings in the past couple of years. David Grush came out. The media is covering it with much greater seriousness. Legislation has been passed. Members of Congress are persistently talking about it. The stigma has diminished. And there are going to be more hearings. I hear rumors that there are going to be government officials coming out, new government officials, because they're sick of the cover-up. So that environment is going to be existent while Trump comes into office. We can't give Trump credit for that, but it's still an environmental reality that will make Lue Elizondo's job easier. But in addition to that, just as you heard, we have Trump himself saying that he is going to, or has to, facilitate greater UFO transparency. Furthermore, members of his cabinet have vouched that they believe the American people have a right to know what's going on about UFOs. So there's a systemic advantage for Elizondo to work with. Elizondo came out of the Pentagon in 2017, and he has been dedicated to helping the government to get out of this hole that they've dug for themselves. Why don't we let him continue that effort as an official for the U.S. government? He's very articulate. He, I think, can be very persuasive and pragmatic and do the things that need to be done to get what needs to be done so that the obfuscation and the excessive secrecy begins to deteriorate. I think he's a great candidate. Some people have said that David Grush would be a great candidate for this kind of a role. I agree with that. I'm not saying Elizondo is the only person that can do this job well. I'm just saying he's an excellent candidate. And I think Trump should absolutely consider him for this kind of role. And look, it would be wonderful if Biden disclosed prior to leaving office. I think he should. I think he should maintain that legacy for himself, not because I voted for him or didn't vote for him or support him or don't support him, but just from a self-interest standpoint. If I was Biden, I think I'd be inclined to want to get that credit. So I'm thinking of it through his mind. Same with Trump. I'm thinking of it through his mind. If I was Trump, I would want to get that credit. Now, look, let's be honest. Trump was in office for 4 years already. He did not get us disclosure. And his basic theme when he was asked about it was, well, the pilots believe, but I don't particularly. Hopefully he will change his tune in regard to that and talk more seriously about it in some sense. And several sources have said that he's been briefed on the legacy program, the UFO crash retrieval program. So if that's the case, we can't say that he's in the dark. So he has an obligation to help facilitate the path that's ahead of us. Everyone is sick of the lies. Everyone's sick of the obfuscation. And just because I will support Trump if he discloses doesn't mean I necessarily support him in anything else he does. But when it comes to UFOs, if he contributes to transparency, obviously I'm going to support him on that because that's my interest. I did my best to be accurate with everything. The drone story is incredibly complex and confusing. So if I made any mistakes, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. I try to be as accurate as I can. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Put a lot of work into it. And please do not forget to subscribe. If you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You can become a patron. You can become a YouTube member. You can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below, or you could just slap a like on this bad boy and I will appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all YouTube members, patrons, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.